All right, there are losses, and then there are losses that you don't even want to talk about. I don't have a lot to say about the Padres here today, so we're probably just going to fuck off on them for a little bit and get into some other stuff. Padres lost in Philadelphia. You probably know that. Welcome in, Section 1904. Darren and John with you here. We're going to get into some other stuff. I will say I was very pleasantly surprised to log on and see that Kevin Acee, this is usually my barometer for how odious a loss is, whether or not Acee adds some tidbits in there. He did have tidbits today in the Padres Daily, so I guess it wasn't as calamitous as I made it out to be. But for my money, that was about as frustrating. That is in the running for one of the worst losses of the year for me. So much so that I left in the fifth inning and just went for a bike ride. I said, I think I've seen enough of Matt Waldron. I think I've seen enough of this offense. I know the way this is going to go. And it ended up 4-0. I don't have a ton to add about this, John. So we're going to get into some other stuff here on the podcast today. But welcome in, everybody, to Section 1904. Do you have any strong thoughts on this? I know I can feel the frustration from local sports radio. We're getting to the point now where even the joke is being made on social media that maybe we should just replay yesterday's show because it's the same thing. So I don't want to avoid that unless you feel strongly about something.
No, I mean, let's run through it in like 2.5 minutes. Number one, did Ben and Woods, did they take their show out to Philadelphia to be disappointed on the road by this team? Because I saw...
did not take their show on the road. This is a Ben and Woods vacation that they are not doing their show in Philadelphia.
But are they going to the games?
Yes, they were at the game.
So they flew cross-country to Philadelphia to just be disappointed by this offense yet again. Great job by the San Diego Padres. Secondly... the responses that we got to yesterday's podcast, where I basically said, like, nothing about this team matters if Fernando Tatis Jr. doesn't, get back to form, get back to, a power hitting, right fielder who does all the other stuff. And our buddy John Conniff from Mad Friars texted me this morning, said he listened to it and he agreed completely. But I saw some replies to that or quote tweets of that on Blue Sky and on Twitter that were like, this guy, it's because he was on PEDs before and now they're out of his system. I saw someone calling him like a negligent father at one point. Like, and these were Padre fans. Like, I checked. I was like, are these Dodger fans that have the knives out for Fernando Tatis Jr.? No, Padre fans. I think... I know this is just sports fans now, and we talked about hater culture last week, but God, man, it's like the future of the franchise hangs on this guy, really. It seems weird to me that with, 10 to 12 years left on his very large contract, Padre fans have already completely turned on Fernando Tatis Jr. That's all. I don't have anything from yesterday's game because it's a bad team that continues to be bad. They can't score. Left field is a problem. Catcher is a problem. In that Acee Padres Daily you referenced, Acee was like, all right, enough. Just give Luis Campusano the catching job and see what the hell you got. There's no reason to be playing this game anymore. You're not getting anything from Maldonado or Diaz. Campusano's been a great catcher and a great hitter at AAA. You got to figure out whether or not he's ever going to be at the major league level. Just give him the job, which is funny because I've heard the same thing from everyone about Tirso Ornelas. Like, just give him left field. It can't be any worse than it's been. And so
this is so stupid. I'm sorry. I don't mean
no,
to
you're fine.
interrupt you
You're
here,
fine.
but,
I'm pretty much done anyway.
I mean, the idea that you're a Luis Campusano or Tirso Ornelas away from being a better team is just flat out stupid.
No.
You
I don't
already said it. It's about Fernando Tatis Jr. It's about Manny Machado. It's about Xander Bogaerts. It's about the players who you're paying a bunch of money to.
I don't know that it's necessarily about putting in these guys to be a better team. I think it's more like, are you really going to improve your team by trading for a catcher? Wouldn't you rather just figure out if the catcher you have is good enough? Would you really benefit from trading for a left fielder right now? Would you rather just figure out if the left fielding prospect you have is good enough? And it does seem like there's a little bit of push and pull as far as like whether or not they're willing to play these young players, give them time to figure things out. And I think that's what everyone's getting frustrated about. But
right. We've been over this with Campusano. I mean,
yeah.
I could explain this again if people missed earlier podcasts. Maybe we have new listeners. But, this is the second straight coaching staff that has decided. It was easy to blame this on Bob Melvin and say, well, Bob didn't want to play this catcher, or he was deferential towards his pitchers who didn't want to throw to Luis Campusano. I mean, we're going on now a second tenure here where this isn't happening. And much as I like some of the people who I see, who is the guy? What is his name? I saw this video yesterday. floating around on social media about how Luis Campusano's got 1,000+ OPS in Triple A. I'm like, it doesn't matter.
AC said the same.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't what the point. This isn't the point.
Yeah.
The point is, if the pitchers wanted to throw to Luis Campusano, they would be throwing to Luis Campusano. Now, the case was being made. God, why am I drawing a blank? But he was making the case that he should be the full-time DH, which okay. But again, what are we really doing? What are we really talking about? I mean, you're talking about a game where there were 6 walks in the game. There was like 4 wild pitches and a hit by pitch and a pass ball and stolen bases. I mean, the Phillies just they just do whatever they wanted to do. That's why it felt like a B squad game in spring training where you don't even know who the numbers are. It's a bunch of number 84s and a number 92 and a number 68. Who are these guys? Except these were the big leaguers. Like this was the big league club out there yesterday. So, it didn't resemble a big league game. It didn't resemble a big league effort. And, I tend to think all this other sort of stuff is, I mean, I guess if you want to go through it again, but what do you expect the difference to be this time with Luis Campusano? I just, what are you expecting it to be? I understand but the point is, but again, it's already done. Like the job has been done. Like you've already done the number on the guy. I don't know what, I just don't know why all of a sudden you think, well, this call up will be the call up where all of a sudden everything clicks and everybody's like, yes, okay, this now becomes the thing that is going to propel this team back into the type of team that everybody thought it was at the end of the last year. I don't know. I just don't see it.
I'll take this full circle for our conversation from yesterday, and then we can move on to something that we enjoy talking about. I think Kevin AC saying, we have to figure out the Campusano thing, call him up and give him time. I think that's your answer to, has this team shown you that they are worthy of an investment? Have they shown you that they are worthy of trading for good players to take these roles? And I think by saying hey, give Campusano a time to figure out whether or not he can make it, is Kevin Acee going, no. They haven't proven that they're worthy of a value or of an investment of a great value to improve the catcher spot or the left field spot. Just take what you got. And what's the phrase they used in my daughter's preschool when she was younger? You get what you get and you don't throw a fit. I think that's kind of where we are, where it's it's not going to be a good team. They're not worthy of adding a left fielder or catcher at this point. You get what you get. It's time to figure it out. If Luis Campusano comes up and he's a starting catcher for 2 months and he stinks, what have you really lost?
Well, you've lost your ability to upgrade that position with the trade deadline.
Yeah, but that's my point. I think AC's saying, is this team showing you that they're worthy of giving up whatever is required to upgrade that position at the trade deadline? I think no. I think that's what he's saying, whether or not he realizes it.
So you're essentially then saying that your season is going to rest on Luis Campusano.
Yeah, and Tirso Ornelas.
Okay, well, I mean, no offense, but I'd be hesitant to do that. I mean, I would. It's not because I think Maldonado and Diaz are all that good. But, again, the message is being sent. I mean, it's being sent since spring training.
I know.
And people are latching on to statistics here, and I understand why. But, there is something that is happening internally, and I'm not in there, so I don't know. But there is something internally that is screaming out that they do not want Luis Campusano to be the person, certainly behind the plate. Now, if you want to make the case that he could be the DH and you put Sheets in left, fine. Or Sheets plays first base. Okay. I suppose I would reluctantly get on board with that, although I would have absolutely no expectation whatsoever that this is going to change the course of the Padres season or the course of the Padres offense. That would just be my opinion. But if you want to do it because desperate times, desperate measures, something like that, then so be it. Fine. Go ahead. Go do that. But again, this guy's been on the roster, John.
Yeah.
And they don't want to throw to him. And I just keep saying it that way, not because anybody's whispered that in my ear, because I know the way baseball works. And if the pitchers... You have a player on this team who threw a no-hitter to Luis Campusano, and he doesn't want to throw to Luis Campusano. So, if they wanted to throw to the guy, pitchers wield an awful lot of power inside of a clubhouse. And if they want to throw to a guy, they're throwing to a guy. And that's just the way it is. And I'm sure Stephen Kolek and Bergert, and some of these guys, they probably don't have that kind of status. But there are other guys in there who do have status, and none of them seem to be standing up for Luis Campusano. So that's why I feel bad. Maybe maybe instead of pointing out these numbers of Luis Campusano that he's got a 1,000 OPS in AAA, maybe instead of trying to suggest that this is somehow going to be the player that's going to turn around or help turn the Padres into something that they haven't been this year, which is good offensively. Maybe this is the time where you say, hey, this is a player that has value, even though everybody in the league seems to know the Padres don't value him. Yeah. This player has value, and maybe you can actually get something for him out there on the market. I don't know. But, again, I just think that the book is kind of written on this guy at this point. And I mean, I don't mean to make it sound like I don't believe in Campusano. I would love to see the guy get a shot.
Same.
But I read the tea leaves here, and I think everybody else understands too. Like it is very plausible. It is. I understand what you're saying, what Kevin's saying, what others are saying. But there's just one problem here. The message from the clubhouse is coming through loud and clear. And it is confounding because nobody will explain it. Nobody will actually put it into words why it is. I told you that a couple of years back, they're like, hey, listen, Bob is full of shit. Bob is full of shit. He's trying to convince us that Austin Nola is, some great catcher, or, Jorge Alfaro is fucking, these guys. Come on. Don't tell us these guys are so good. If you think Campusano's dog shit, just tell us that Campusano's dog shit. But you're lying to us about the value of these other catchers. And guess what? Now we're on the second straight coaching staff where we had to put up with Mike Schilt telling you that this guy literally was Yadier Molina. So, he's not. He's not, but they're twisting themselves in knots to not say what it is that they are actually saying about Luis Campusano. So I understand. I've heard the frustration from the front office personally. So when others report on that sort of stuff, I'm like, yeah, I know. Everybody around the club seems to understand this. But what we never get is a full-throated explanation from anybody in uniform as to what it is that is going on with Luis Campusano and why they are so reluctant not to turn to him when clearly, statistically, there are reasons why you should go ahead and you should do that.
I agree with everything you said. I'm also paying attention to the little bit of daylight that I see here because it's interesting. And the daylight is between the front office and the coaching staff. And Kevin Acee pointed this out.
For the second time.
Yeah, Kevin Acee pointed this out. He was like, Mike Schilt will tell you over and over again that he does not care about his catcher's offense as long as he's good defensively. And then he said that not everyone in the front office shares that mentality. And I get the feeling that the front office would love if Luis Campusano got a legitimate chance at catching at the big league level again, I guess. And I get the feeling that Mike Schilt, whether it's because of his pitchers or otherwise, is not going to give that to him. And we talked about this via text the other day. Dennis Lynn said that A.J. Preller's contract, as far as he knows, expires after next season. And Mike Schilt is signed beyond that. And we knew Peter Seidler was an A.J. guy. We don't know if John Seidler is an A.J. guy or a Mike Schilt guy or a neither guy. And it's going to be interesting to see if at some point Campusano kind of gets thrown in there and given a couple weeks as the starting catcher. I think that might be a sign that the front office still has power to tell the coaching staff what to do. Right. But it's looking less and less likely. And if I was A.J. Preller, I don't think he's going to have a hard time finding a job if he ever gets let go by the San Diego Padres or if his contract doesn't get renewed. But it's looking more and more likely like he's got less power than he used to.
Okay, my apologies to Kyle Glazer. That was the name that I was trying to think of.
Right,
Kyle, who's a really, really good guy who does a lot of really good work. We don't go out of our way to promote other people's projects, but he's doing a really good podcast about the Padres. So he does one with Mike Cameron, who is one of my favorite players to cover. But my apologies, because that's the name I was thinking. He made a very good case for Campusano. But, again, it's like there's this one major obstacle. It's the clubhouse. It's a bit of a mystery. All right. I will say one interesting tidbit, just as a quick aside, that Kevin had. The Padres have appealed the ruling of a single on Ellie De La Cruz's soft line drive that spun out of Tyler Wade's glove in the ninth inning Sunday in Cincinnati. It was initially ruled an error by the official score, changed to a hit after the game. Padres are seeking to make a change back to an error. Said Wade yesterday, I hope it gets changed. I got to make that play. That's a quote. You know what I find interesting about that? Not that this is something anybody should dwell over. The way this works is somebody has to make that motion.
Right.
Okay. It says here the Padres have appealed the ruling. Okay, well, who? Who does that? Like, who in whose best interest is it to appeal this ruling? Do you think after losing that game and getting walked off that, they all showed up in Philadelphia yesterday like, that thing, come on, that can't be an error. Well, that can't be a hit.
Yeah, they're all still
like
concerned.
in whose best interest is this? And I will tell you that there are times where I have heard, smart people will figure this out. I have heard sometimes, pitching staff's ERA is a reflection of a pitching coach, and a pitching coach might say, listen, that shouldn't be the case there. My pitcher, I'm going to defend my pitcher here, and I'm sorry that I'm going to have the error put on this player, but Tyler Wade, too bad. You're not Manny Machado, so we're just going to deal with this. And sometimes it's a pitching coach. Sometimes it's a player's agent. And a player's agent might be thinking, there's a potential free agent situation. I don't know. I just find that interesting. I would like to know a little bit more about that. I would like to know who exactly it is that said, hey, I want this ruling appealed. And I guarantee it was either the pitching coach or it was the agent of Robert Suarez. So that's all. I find that to be a very, those are the kind of little tiny things that I think are interesting myself.
Yeah, I saw the same thing. I was interested for the same reasons. I was assuming agent. I had not considered pitching coach, but that's an interesting wrinkle to add to it.
Pitching coaches, they do like, having team ERA and, all that sort of stuff. It is a reflection on their work, isn't it?
Maybe it was Diaz trying to get the splits back to, between him and Maldonado catching Suarez back to regular.
Right. He's like, man, I'm listening to the Section 1904 podcast. Gennaro guy is crushing me because he thinks I'm just a bad influence on Robert Suarez. Got to figure this shit out. Well, John, I think I overdosed on melatonin last night.
OD.
I usually take 2.5 milligrams. I have a 5 milligram pill of melatonin. Do you take anything to help you sleep, or are you au naturel?
So it kind of depends. Some nights I do, some nights I don't. Last night I took a gummy because I bought gummies a few days ago, and I had one the night before, and I was like, man, I slept great. And then last night I was like, I could go for another great night of sleep, and so I popped a gummy, had another great night of sleep. It was great, but I have occasionally gone the melatonin route. I feel like I get used to it really quickly. Like I'll take it for like a week or two and then all of a sudden it's not working and I got to up the dosage and then it gets out of control. And then I'm like, well, I can't, there's a limit to how much you can take. And then I back off and I find something else.
Is there a limit? I'm not unaware of this.
I think so.
So I buy, it's one of my Costco purchases. See how many days we can go mentioning Costco here on the podcast. and I buy them in the 5 milligram dosage and usually split it. Leah and I will split one. She was traveling back, so I had one I think I took one about 9. We're going to get to bed about 9:30. And then I think I forgot that I took it, so I took another half. So Ooh. I'm a little groggy. I feel like I have a little bit of a melatonin hangover today. So, yeah. So in case I'm not coherent on this podcast, I have to straighten my shit out because I got to go out to SDFC, hit a couple of interviews. Chris McVeigh and Ani Valakari today for the midweek show or the pregame show. So we're doing that later. Thankfully, I had another good Club World Cup match to entertain me last night so that I wasn't just in a state of disappointment from this terrible Padre game in Philadelphia. That I had how about the story? Probably the biggest sports story in the world, I guess, would be this Saudi Arabian team, Al Hilal, which took down Manchester City in the Club World Cup. That was quite the match there. It went to extra time, and a couple of goals were scored by each side in the first period of extra time, and then the match winner was scored in the second session. I mean, I don't know if you were in tune with this one. I know the Club World Cup is getting a lot of negative press because the attendance and the weather. I mean, the weather one is really an interesting one. It's an interesting gripe. I mean, it's summer. I'm not sure exactly what we're supposed to do. It's going to be hot. I guess it's the delays that are really ticking people off. Have you been following this? Enzo Maresca, he's the head coach at Chelsea. Their match the other day got suspended. They were up 1-0. It got suspended, I want to say, somewhere about the 85th minute for 2 hours.
Because
and then by the time they went back on the field, Benfica put it all together. Got a penalty kick awarded in stoppage time, and it ended up starting at 4:00, and it didn't end until 8:38 locally on a hot, sweaty, swarmy, kind of sweaty day. And, like, hey, this isn't football. Football is flowing. What are we doing with all these delays? There have been 6 delays so far. This is one, I think some of the criticism of the tournament has been spot on. I don't know what we're supposed to do about the weather one and whether or not this is just a horrible harbinger of things to come for 2026. But people are panicking about the weather. People are worried that they're going to have weather delays because, we have laws. I think we have rules in this country that are a little bit different than they are in other places, which is if there's a lightning strike within 10 miles, I think you have to stop a match or stop a sporting event for 30 minutes. I think that's the rule. I think that's the law. I don't think it's a rule. I think it's the law. So this is, something now people are starting to wring their hands over, John, about what's going to happen next year with the World Cup final when it gets delayed for an hour and a half because there's lightning somewhere in New Jersey.
I do find it amusing that people are freaking out and going like, oh my God, the World Cup is going to have weather. The World Cup always has weather. Like, right. I get in Qatar, there was less, it was just hot. But, like, I remember when it was in Brazil, them playing in pouring rain and all that stuff. So, like, yeah, it's going to be hot. There's going to be some thunderstorms. There's going to be some delays. But, try and find a place in the world that doesn't have weather. Good luck.
Well, I think the difference is, though, the weather delays, like the actual delays, I think, if I'm reading this right. Because my initial reaction was the same thing. As somebody who potentially, who always keeps an eye, John, on Spain. Yeah, whether it's Spanish football or food and culture.
I almost texted you yesterday. It was like 115 there yesterday.
It was the hottest June in 65 years in Spain. And I bring this up because the World Cup in 2030 is going to be in Spain.
Yeah.
So now I don't know where exactly they're going to put the venues. They haven't determined that yet. If you're going to play in Madrid, you're going to play indoors. Barcelona's just completing a new stadium, but it's going to be outdoors. But you go to Sevilla, it's well over 105, 110 degrees. So I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work, but I think what this is more about the delays than it is the searing heat. The heat is one thing; it's hot, and some of the venues next year in the summer for the World Cup, LA should be okay. SoFi Stadium, Seattle,
they're not playing the Rose Bowl again.
No, so they're not going to play in the frying pan. Good. They're going to play in SoFi. They're going to play in I think Seattle. Vancouver, those will probably be okay. Dallas and Houston are both indoor venues. Miami, Miami, just to satisfy my curiosity. 2,000 lightning injuries over the last 50 years. I don't know. Is that a lot? It seems like a lot or a little, depending.
I have no idea.
I don't know either. In New York, it's New Jersey, but New England, Toronto. Now the 3 Mexican cities, I don't know. Monterrey, Mexico City, Guadalajara, I would guess it's probably going to be pretty warm in those places.
Probably going to be hot, yeah.
Probably going to be pretty hot. I don't know what the thunderstorm situation is there, but, is it heat or is it... 6 delays does feel like a lot, and I tried to look up 1994, the last time we hosted the World Cup, and I didn't find anything about delays, but I did find a couple of stories about, welcome to the United States where it's hot and humid. And, sorry, European fans, this is just the way it is in this country, so deal with it.
I specifically remember from that World Cup watching a replay later of a game that I think was played at Soldier Field, and it was like 110 degrees, and it's Chicago, so it's real sticky, and yeah, that's it's going to be a thing.
Yeah. There's lots of people that are saying lots of things about it. I find it to be more good than bad. Jurgen Klopp, the former manager, said it's like the worst idea in the history of football. So I don't know.
Hey, wait! Did you see the Zlatan quote that I put in front row seat this morning about Messi?
Yeah, he's playing with a bunch of statues.
Yeah, but more to the point, I love Zlatan. English is definitely not his first language, but he navigates it in a way where it always seems like whatever he says just has like a little knife inserted into it. And he said that not only was Messi playing with statues, but that his teammates ran like they were carrying bags of cement.
Right.
And I was like, it's a brutal insult. You read it and you're like, it's not supposed to be a brutal insult. He's being very factual, but it's a brutal insult that you run like you're carrying bags of cement.
Yeah, it does. It reminds me of the old Merv Retman line. He was the former hitting coach of the Padres, probably everybody's favorite hitting coach. I think Merv recently passed, didn't he? And he said, hey, listen, just because you carry that piano doesn't mean you have to stop and play it when you're running the bases. So, yeah, Messi plays with statues, not teammates. He's surrounded by players who run if they were carrying bags of cement. This isn't the Messi I know. You put him on a real team, he'd go all out. There are no coaches, no stars, not even players who understand how to move without the ball. If he were on a real team, any great team, you'd see the real Lion. Messi plays alone because he loves the game. Because he can still do it. 99% of players can't. But this isn't the Messi I know.
I love Zlatan. I love him so much.
I don't know. Was losing to PSG really that bad? I mean, PSG has taken down some pretty good teams. They did beat Inter Milan 5-0 in the Champions League final. So I don't know that it was as calamitous as Zlatan saw. But anytime Zlatan gets an opportunity, I've recently started following him on Instagram, by the way. Because I saw this one clip that was making the rounds last week where he jumps onto some sort of flotation device in a pool and does a bicycle kick, an overhead kick. I don't know if anybody's seen that, but a ridiculous display of athleticism.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, like for a guy that's like for anybody that is amazing, and for a guy that's done it as long as Zlatan, it is incredible as well. Of course, John, the real controversy of the Club World Cup comes from obviously two Americans. From two U.S. national team players who are not with the U.S. men's national team because they are representing their club, Juventus, an Italian club from Torino. And they will play a little later tonight, as a matter of fact. If you're listening to this on Tuesday, Juventus is going to play against Real Madrid. And on the official Juventus podcast, Timothy Weah and Weston McKennie, two starters from the World Cup in 2022, two presumed starters in 2026, I don't know exactly what this is all about, but I guess in an attempt to drum up a little bit of interest in the Club World Cup, Tim Weah and Weston McKennie are on some podcast, some club-related podcast, and may have found themselves in a little bit of hot water here. So again, these are two U.S. players, totally different stories. Weston McKennie is from Texas, came up in the FC Dallas system. Has been in and out of a little trouble with the U.S. men's national team. Famously got suspended during COVID. I think he had a couple of women in the room. He's kind of that guy. He's
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, strapping young man. Nothing wrong with it unless it's against the rules and you run the risk of getting your whole team.
Not
giving
ideal,
your whole team COVID, I guess.
Sure, yeah.
And Tim Weah is a bright kid. His dad George Weah is a former Ballon d'Or winner. Former best player in the world. Very international, cultural, president of Liberia. And this guy plays for the U.S. men's. This is true. Like his dad, George Weah, is like one of the best soccer players that's ever walked the earth. And that Tim Weah plays for the U.S. men's national team for me is like a tremendous coup. He might be my favorite player on the squad. At least he was until he and Weston McKennie. I don't know what these guys are doing, John. And you might have some things to say about this as a proud Italian American. But they were on the Juventus podcast. And I guess due to the sheer boredom, somehow the subject became comparing food from the United States to food in Italy. And again, the context is important here. These aren't guys that haven't traveled. These are players who have traveled extensively. They currently are on an Italian team, a really, really good Italian team. And they somehow got into the subject of comparing food from the United States, John, to food from Italy. And I would say this didn't go well, but others might disagree.
Okay, I am going to see if I can get this to play, the video, and if it plays, it's almost 2 minutes long. So if you want to stop and address something, just yell stop and I'll stop it. Let's see if I can make this work.
I was going to say something very crazy, but I don't feel like having that debate right now, so please.
What?
No, it's a hot take.
What?
But anyway,
no, I want to hear this.
No. I'm not going to get bashed.
By who?
Italians.
You say Italian food's trash?
I wasn't going to say it's trash. I was just going to say,
Need some work?
Please.
Y'all don't have much variety, I'll give you that.
Yeah, pasta, pizza, fish,
steak. And if you go anywhere, it's all... You know what the problem is with Italian food? It's great. It's good food. You guys have good specific, things that you do very well.
Mm-mm.
But in America, the thing is, if I go to a burger joint or a steakhouse and then I go to another one that's 10 minutes down the street, I'm still eating a burger, but it's a completely different taste.
Mm-mm.
in Italy, you guys like, okay, if I go here to this restaurant and get a pesto pasta, and then I go 10 minutes down the street and order a pesto pasta, it's going to be like the same thing. You guys don't have variety. So that's why I say American food.
It's a hot take.
I
prefer American Italian food.
Yeah.
I feel like
what was the place
I just
we
feel
went
like
to
it
that
just
one time and
has more flavor.
Where was it? In Atlanta. You remember the chicken parm that you had?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, Americans do everything better, so hey. Anyway, that's true.
Yeah, okay. I might point out, by the way, for those that are like, I'm not sure who these two players are, I would point out that these are two of the 5 or 6 players who found themselves in that very awkward Oval Office situation behind Donald Trump, where Donald Trump was literally talking about fucking bombing Iran while these guys were standing there, and then they got questioned about whether women could play for Juventus. Like, you know, so these guys have had an unbelievable Club World Cup. People think this tournament is boring. Well, you know, ask Tim Weah and Weston McKennie. Like, these guys have seen a little bit of everything here, haven't they? It didn't take long for people to respond to this. This, according to The Athletic, former Fiorentina goalkeeper Emiliano Viviano said the United States is a country with the worst food in the world. They would even deep fry the soles of their shoes. If I were the prime minister, I wouldn't let these two players back into Italy. How can you say that there's no variety in Italian cuisine? His definition of variety irritated me. McKennie, there are 200 million of you Americans, actually 340. The 200 million of you Americans, and all you ever eat are hamburgers. Truth is, all the food in America is brought to you by other nations. Just want to tell McKennie he's achieved the incredible feat of managing to unite all of Italy against him. It's not about fans anymore. He can be insulted by absolutely everybody.
Jesus.
John, I don't know. I mean, listen, I go to Italy. I think a bit of pesto pasta sounds like a good idea. And he also rattled off like 4 things. He said pasta and pizza and fish and steak. Like, I don't know. That sort of suggests a little bit of variety here. So what do you... We did a segment on Radio Forever that I would like to bring here to Section 1904 called Rate That Take. You want to rate that take?
I do want to rate that take, but give me a minute. Because I you know me, Darren, I like stats. And so I tried to figure out, is there a statistical answer to this question of, is Italian cuisine good? And I found YouGov, who does polling all over the world, has polled, I don't know, looks like about 20 different countries here, and had them rate on a scale of 1 to 100 their favorite cuisines, and then they merge this all together. And so we have a ranking of most popular international cuisine overall, and then it's broken down by the population of each individual country and how popular that cuisine is in that country. Before I share my screen and show you this glorious piece of stats that I have here, would you like to take a guess on what the top cuisine in the world is by popularity?
By popularity. Now, is this like broken down by nationality? Like, is it like what country has the best cuisine? Like, give me a couple clues here so I don't say something.
Yeah. So there's German cuisine, Greek cuisine, Indian cuisine, American cuisine, Spanish cuisine.
Well, I mean, what is American cuisine? That's a fair question. I mean, what is it, honestly?
That does not seem like it was specified. It was just like, hey, how would you rate American cuisine? And I imagine people view that as hamburgers.
Hamburger's German.
Hamburgers German. Steaks are just steaks.
I would say American cuisine for me is barbecue. Right?
I mean, that's the most American cuisine. Yes, barbecue.
Barbecue, and I would say soul food.
Soul food. What about Jewish deli type of stuff, like pastrami and stuff like that? Like, that doesn't really exist outside of America, right?
I don't know. I don't know. I've not been to Israel, so I don't know that was the origin of such a thing. I'm not sure exactly. And is that uniquely American?
That was my question. Is it uniquely American?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. It's interesting that Tim Weah does say I like American Italian food better than I like Italian food.
I don't know what the hell
that
means.
The Americans have put a twist on. Well, I think, it's like a lot of things. I used to work with Marty forever, and Marty would tell me See, like the sushi that you eat in this country is not the sushi that you eat in Japan.
I mean,
it's a
true.
totally different thing.
That's true.
There's no fucking Philadelphia roll in Japan.
Right.
You know, so we have to put our like cream cheese, obnoxious, fat content, processed food on everything here. So, you know, even the hamburger that they're talking about, you know, I'm sure as I'm listening to Weston McKennie talk about hamburger joints, I'm thinking, is he talking about, well, I have a Five Guys on this corner and 5 minutes down the road I have an In-N-Out burger, and those are two totally different things? Maybe. Or in his case, he's from Texas, so maybe he's talking about Whataburger. Maybe, because these are never-ending debates in the United States, which sort of speaks to, you know, to us. Anyway, to answer your question.
Long way around.
Yeah. Long walk around the block. What is the best cuisine? I would say probably French. I mean, the French really invented so many.
Most popular, not best, most popular.
Italian. Everybody knows you go to a city, you look for an Italian restaurant.
It is, in fact, Italian cuisine. Hold on. Look at this thing, if this shows up. Look at this chart.
Whoa.
I can zoom in on
the
this
eyes.
so you can see number one with an average score of 84 amongst popularity with all these different countries is Italian cuisine.
Yeah, everybody knows, you know, if you're in a foreign country, you can say, hey, listen, I can at least, you know, what is the risk I'm taking here going to find a plate of pasta somewhere?
Yeah, exactly. So in order, Italian, Chinese, Japanese, Thai, French, Spanish, and then American, and then Mexican below, and then it gets a little wonky after that. You get to the bottom, and it's like, what is I'm surprised Peruvian cuisine is so low here, but like Saudi Arabian cuisine, Norwegian cuisine, Emirati cuisine, like I understand why these might not be popular. I'm not saying they're not good.
Danish cuisine, interesting. I never knew it would rank so high on this list. I should ask some of our Danish players about this.
Yeah, you know, it's probably one of those things where it's like you just don't come in contact with it that often. You don't know it's a thing, kind of the same as the Emirati cuisine. But you know, Lebanese, Moroccan, Australian cuisine. What the hell's Australian cuisine, Darren? Don't say kangaroo.
Yeah, I mean, shrimp on the barbie. I don't know.
What is funny is this ranking of countries at the top here, this being the top and going right is the bottom, is how popular international cuisine is in these countries. So USA is right in the middle in terms of Americans like. On kind of an average scale amongst these countries, international cuisine. It's very funny to go to the other side of this and see Japan, Japan likes Italian food, Japanese food, and Chinese food. And like, that's kind of it, according to this list. After that, they're like, nah, you can have everything else. Okay. I will stop sharing my screen and I will answer your question that you've asked me several times. I am Italian. I grew up in an Italian household. I ate a lot of pasta. I ate a lot of chicken parm. I ate a lot of eggplant parm, gnocchi, lasagna, baked ziti, which I think is an American thing. And Italian cuisine is not my favorite cuisine. It's fine. It's fine. It's very tomatoey. You really got to be in on tomatoes to like Italian cuisine, I think. For the most part, you don't need to. You can get gnocchi with like a gorgonzola cream sauce. One of my go-to orders if I'm at an Italian restaurant. But it's not my favorite cuisine because as I've gotten older, my palate has craved bigger, stronger, more in-your-face spices. So now I lean more towards the Indian cuisine, African cuisine, things that just are loaded with spices is really where I go to these days. And you know, Chinese food and Thai food and stuff can get me there sometimes. Like some of those Chinese places they really overpower you with the spices. But by and large, I like the really rich, spice-heavy stuff. And Italians, maybe this is what they're talking about. Like Italian food doesn't really punch you in the face with like spices and flavor like that. It's more punching you in the face with like the produce of it all. Taste how good this tomato is, how fresh this basil is, whatever.
Because their food has flavor. Like, unlike the food that we get, like our tomatoes don't taste like much. Our chicken doesn't taste like much. Whereas when you go to another place, you know, the chicken's a totally different color. When we got back from Spain, we were like, what is that yellow bird? And they're like, that is a chicken. Why is it that color? It probably isn't good. No. That's the way that the chickens are fed here. They're fed differently. The pigs are fed differently. They're fed with acorns. That way you can have a piece of jamon. I saw that you want to take a jamon cutting class, John. You should know this. just in case. The way that you feed the pigs there isn't the pig isn't in slop. Over there. It's a totally different experience, which is why it tastes so good. So you're actually tasting the food and not all the additives. And maybe that's a little bit of a culture shock. Now, let me just add a little bit of context here on Weston McKennie, because this is not the first time that he's stuck his foot in his mouth. He also, when he arrived in Torino, and this was captured on one of those Amazon Prime shows, All or Nothing, that he mentioned, pizza, pasta, fish, and all that sort of stuff. He is known as a ranch dressing believer when it comes to pizza, so much so that they actually had to fly ranch dressing in to the Juventus locker room so that when they have pizza at Juventus,
they have to fly it in?
Well, whatever. I don't know that you can find ranch on the grocery shelves there. I'm maybe adding that one, maybe taking some liberties with that. But yeah, they have ranch dressing just for Weston McKennie, because he believes that you should have ranch dressing on your pizza. And, you can imagine that probably doesn't go over real well in Italy. So maybe just a little bit of context here before people want to get all jingoistic and say, I'm going to back the two Americans here. I don't know how everybody else feels about ranch on pizza. I might live with somebody who deals with that, much to my horror. Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad we could hear her.
But, it's certainly not the way I was raised, John. But that being said, I try to live and let live here. But you would imagine in a locker room for an Italian soccer club, maybe not great. So I don't know. Maybe that should be factored in as well.
Okay, I'll out myself half here. I don't like ranch dressing on top of my pizza. But after I've eaten the parts of pizza that have sauce and cheese and whatever toppings, and I'm just left with the crust, just the bread, at that point I think of it as a breadstick, and I will then dip that in ranch. Hopefully it's a ranch with a lot of dill flavor. I like my ranch to be very dilly. And I will dip the breadstick in and eat it as such, because after eating all that bread with the sauce and the cheese, just having the bread by itself is not quite enough for me. I will point out, to your Weston McKennie is from Texas thing, one of my favorite pizza places in the world in Dallas, Texas, when you walk in, they have a bottle of ranch sitting right there where you're checking in to get a restaurant or to get a table at the restaurant. And the bottle of ranch says, this bottle of ranch could be yours for $1,000. And it's the only way you can get ranch in that restaurant. If you want to buy the bottle of ranch for $1,000, they will sell it to you. But other than that, they're ranch free. They don't even bother asking unless you want to buy that bottle.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm on the player side here. I just to put a bow on this subject. I don't walk in their shoes. I don't live where they live. Maybe Torino's not a place that is known for a bunch of variety. I'm not sure. Who am I to say?
I can't imagine that the food in the Italian food in America is better than the Italian food in Torino. I would say if I was in Italy, I think I would enjoy the local fare a lot more than the Italian restaurants around San Diego County.
Okay, well, like you said, this is the real controversy of the Club World Cup, which again I think has been pretty good. I know I usually want to take a shower at the end of the night because of the $1 billion invested in this by the the investment fund of Saudi Arabia. But
hey,
in terms of the actual football itself, it's actually pretty good. So.
Speaking of feeling a little bit dirty about the money invested. After watching the F1 movie on Saturday, I woke up on Sunday and watched the F1 race, and the amount of money that's in F1 makes me feel a little dirty. And there's even there's parts of the movie where it's hey, you won this race, and this oil trillionaire in Saudi Arabia is going to be handing you the trophy, and it's do we need that in the movie? I don't need that right now. So yeah, it's I get the uncomfortableness of that. By the way, I had an idea. My idea is that in addition to talking to Sean Kelly tomorrow about F1 and the movie a little bit, you're still intending on seeing this movie before we talk to Sean?
I'm going to try to figure this out a little later today because I would really like to do it. I think it would make for a better conversation, even though I have other questions about what's going on with Checo and what's going on with McLaren and all that sort of stuff. I can get by. And you've seen the movie, so you guys can talk about the movie, and his review is probably more important than mine. but I'm going to see if there's a window in my day after SDFC where I can go and try to see this for
if there is
7 hours.
I had an idea that we should do a separate podcast where you and I just give our full-on review of the movie. We just talk our way through the movie, favorite parts, least favorite parts, things we laughed at, things we cried at, et cetera, et cetera. And maybe release it as a separate thing just for, the higher tiers of Section 1904 subscribers who are supposed to be getting bonus episodes, and we haven't really started doing it. That was my idea for a bonus episode. So if you get out and you see the movie, maybe I'll talk you into doing a separate podcast where we review the F1 movie.
I like that idea. I like that as well. And again, thank you to everybody that subscribed. I know I saw yesterday on social media, my pal Alex Aguilar, who I had previously given credit for being a subscriber. Little did I know he hadn't actually pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
But he did yesterday. He did on Monday, so we do appreciate that. Alex, welcome to the community. Welcome to the section. You get access to our Discord channel, which, after fleeing the Padre game yesterday, I returned home after a bike ride to see that had really lit up like a Christmas tree with all sorts of ideas. I will quickly add, you're not going to fire AJ Preller now. You're not going to fire him until at least the draft, just so everybody knows.
Yeah.
That's just not the way it works. I know what people are saying. I think it's probably speaking more out of frustration than it is in terms of being literal. But you definitely are not, just in case anybody was looking for a little clarification on that. But Alex, you and others now get access to the Discord channel if you choose. You can, you can't. Everybody's got a million social media channels now, so it takes up a lot of time. It takes up a lot of time between. I find myself going back more and more on X these days. I don't know why, but Blue Sky, none of it feels any good at all.
Right.
Maybe the Discord channel is a little bit different because it does feel like it's a little bit more community, and it's not bots, and it's not somebody who paid for a blue check mark who's willing to just attack you for something that's seemingly benign enough. You also get access to the front row seat today. John links in a good story about something we touched on yesterday. There's a couple of tennis players from the University of San Diego who were at Wimbledon. One of them has won a match. I don't know that I'm saying his name right. Oliver Tarvet, Tarvet. He's an English kid who grew up about 20 miles away from Wimbledon. He has been at USD on the tennis team over the last couple of years, joined during COVID, and now is playing here. 21-year-old. He's a qualifier. He's ranked 733rd in the world, and he won his opening match. Now, he's not going to make any money for this because he's still an amateur, and he's playing as a college student. But he now is going to face Carlos Alcaraz, who had a 5-setter in the first round against an Italian player. So, what a moment this is for a 21-year-old USD student who's going to take on Carlos Alcaraz in the second round of Wimbledon. That's just it's a great, great local story. So that and a bunch of other stories there that John links in. Sometimes we talk about them, sometimes we don't. He has you updated on what's going on with Darvish and has you updated on what's happening with the Futures game. Leo DeVries made the Futures game. This is usually something just so people know. The team has a lot of input on who it is that represents an organization in the Futures game, so makes a ton of sense that the Padres would want DeVries there. And all sorts of other links here, things that you might have missed about NBA free agencies underway. John's super excited because, it's D'Angelo Russell's a Mav, even though he's conflicted about whether he's a Mavs fan or not. So, there's all sorts of stuff there. And you get this delivered to your inbox every single day. So thank you, Alex, and many others who have subscribed to Section 1904. And, for as little as $5 a month, I don't even know what the math is on that. I can't even do the math on that. It's like $1 a week. And you get at least 5 podcasts, and you get this delivered Monday through Friday. And you get some bonus content, and you get access to the Discord channel and all sorts of other stuff that hasn't even been announced yet. So I don't know that you're going to find a better deal than what it is that you're getting here from Section 1904. So thank you all very much for supporting this and continuing to support it and help us grow.
Yeah, and I wrote a thing, back to the Mavs thing in a second, but I wrote a thing on Section 1904 yesterday just because I saw some other, Substacks and community-supported creators out there doing this more regularly. So I kind of put a thing out there going like, hey, if you haven't yet joined, join. If you have joined, consider upping your membership. If you've already upped your membership, consider throwing some money in the tip jar. And we got all 3. We got people upgrading their membership. We got a few new members. We got a few people throwing money in the tip jar and telling us how much they appreciate us. Actually, what was this one? I wanted to read this one to you. Oh, Curtis sent us some money in the tip jar, said, love you guys. Also would love to listen to the SDFC pregame, halftime, and postgame show from Vegas. And I was just going to respond to him and be like, I think you could do that in the iHeartRadio app. But I was like, why don't I just bring it up on the podcast? Is that correct? You can listen to all those on the iHeartRadio app, right?
You can. You can't on Apple. You know, if you're using, like, we'll be back because we're the home team on Saturday. So you can turn off the broadcasters, the Apple broadcasters, and you can get the home radio feed this Saturday. But they do not give you the pregame show, the halftime show, or the postgame show. That can only be on the iHeartRadio app or 760 AM.
There you go. So that's where you can find that, Curtis. Even in Vegas, you can listen on the iHeartRadio app. But I put that out. Thank you to everyone who did that. On the Maverick side, I was thinking about this yesterday, and I was like, there's nothing about this team when I became a fan of them that is the same anymore. Like, the owner has changed and gotten worse from my personal perspective. The coach has changed and gotten worse from my personal perspective. I kind of became a Mavericks fan around the time they were drafting Luka Doncic, and I was like, I'm getting it on the ground for Luka Doncic. Not true anymore. And it's like, yeah, I guess I could, throw in for Cooper Flagg because it's convenient. But the more I was thinking about it, I was like, I really like the Clippers. I like their owner. I like their coach. They seem to have this philosophy that I agree with of, like, hire a good coach and just keep him until he doesn't want to be here anymore. They're players in free agency. They're also great at development. Their coaching staff is outside of the head coach is amazing. They have Jeff Van Gundy running the defense. They have Kawhi Leonard, who went to San Diego State, Norm Powell from San Diego. Like, they have so many more ties. If I was going in for, if I was reassessing my NBA fandom, I think it would be hard for me to look at the Clippers and say that anyone else had a better tie to me, to sell me on being a fan of their team than the Clippers. So I'm heading in that direction. As much as Cooper Flagg is exciting and it would be fun to get in on the ground floor of that, and the Clippers don't have, like, a great young player who they just drafted who's going to be awesome for the next 10 or 15 years. But I don't know, leaning towards the Clippers. I'm giving myself, the season doesn't start for 3 months through almost 4 months. So I'm giving myself some time. Maybe summer league, I'll start eyeing some of these young players and see if any of them strikes my fancy.
All right. I hold no objection to that. Not that you need my permission, just as an opinionist. I hold no real objection to that, other than the fact that some would tell you, some in San Diego would say that the cities of San Diego and Los Angeles should never be supportive of one another's sports teams. Now, I feel like there's been lots of exceptions to that over the years, whether it's the Kings or the Lakers. People will root for the NFL team there, I suppose. Some might suggest that to you, but as long as you're willing to deal with that backlash, I think this owner isn't the owner that moved the Clippers out of San Diego. And If anything, all he's done really has made an appeal to San Diego,
with
whether
San
that's
Diego
the hiring
Clippers.
of Lee Jenkins or whether that's coming down the Viejas Arena, whether it's modeling the Intuit Dome and taking some of the actual architectural features of Viejas Arena and putting them into the arena, putting the new crest, having a little tip of the cap to San Diego. So a G League team, right? You just said that, I think?
In my backyard, yeah, the San Diego Clippers.
So they have extended, this owner has extended an olive branch
Correct.
to San Diego County, and I think there's something to be said for that. Now, if you're just somebody who's going to draw a battle line and say, hey, anything north of the nuclear plant of San Onofre, forget it. That's fine too. I understand that. That's probably more the way that I would be wired. But I think that you might find some support with that. I think you can make a compelling case that the Clippers are certainly doing more to appeal to people in San Diego than the Lakers are.
Bless you to your wife who just sneezed in the background. And
bless you. That was a good one. Caught on mic.
The biggest reason I became a Mavericks fan when I was searching for an NBA team when the Nets moved out of New Jersey, and I'm like, I was like, this team doesn't represent me anymore. They've changed so much since my childhood. I did experiment with being a Clippers fan. I worked for the Clippers flagship, so I'm semi-familiar with them. But also when I was like, okay, I'll go in on the Mavericks, because my wife was a Mavericks fan. You know who's not going back to the Mavericks, Darren? My wife. The biggest New York Knicks fan you could possibly find. She literally did a fist pump yesterday when I told her that they signed Jordan Clarkson. So I'm not going to become a Knicks fan. That doesn't make sense to me. It makes sense for her. But it just makes my Mavericks fandom make less sense. And therefore probably makes a future Clippers fandom make more sense. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay. Well, good luck with all that.
Thank you.
I mean, whatever it is that you decide, which will probably change by tomorrow.
Yeah.
And, 2 or 3 more times by the end of the week. So
That's why, like I said, I got 3 or 4 months to jump back and forth and finally land on one.
tell me what you think about this real quick, and I'm going to bounce.
Okay.
I mentioned I'm interviewing Ani Valakari today. His dad, Simo, played in Major League Soccer for 3 years with the Dallas Burn and then FC Dallas. And as I was doing a little bit of research on Oni Valakari's dad.
Burn? What's the Dallas Burn?
That's what they were called when they first started.
Really? What a
Yeah.
terrible name.
Yeah. Well, Sporting KC used to be the Kansas City Wizards.
I do remember that, and I think I know why they got rid of the name.
Yeah. San Jose, once upon a time, had a club called the Shock, San Jose Shock. So,
I do remember that, too.
I found an interview that his dad did where he was asked 15 questions, and I thought, maybe I should just ask Oni the same questions that his dad was asked 20 years ago.
What would be better is make it like the match game where you have written down his dad's question and his dad's answer, and you see if he can guess his dad's answer.
Yeah, I thought about that. I'm trying to figure. I have like a good 30, 40-minute drive that I can figure this out. But, I mean, number one is dad. I mean, he is, just like Juan Pablo Angel. I will hold this up just so that John can see it. Look at his dad. Tell me that's not Ani Valakari.
I mean, he looks just like him, except with more of a receding hairline, but otherwise same guy.
He was a little bit older at this time. But, the questions are standard like website stuff. Your most memorable moment, if you could be a superhero, your favorite candy, your favorite car, your first job, your favorite book, most memorable moment, best friend in soccer. I was like, I wonder if I should just like literally ask the same 15 questions to Ani today.
Yeah, maybe give him the option. Say either you can answer for yourself or you can try and guess what your dad's answer was on each one.
Yeah. Or I can just sort of do both and be like, here's the questions and this is what your dad said.
Yeah. Yeah. But
then I'm like, does that get too complicated? Does that get too complicated for a 5-minute radio interview? I don't know.
Maybe.
Guess I'll figure it out.
To me.
I think so too. I think so too. And then, the alternative was asking him what it was like playing in Cyprus. I mean, can you find Cyprus on a map?
No.
I couldn't. I had to look it up.
Is it
I had a general idea, like the vicinity.
Is it in the Middle East?
It's kind of, is it Middle Eastern or is it European? I'm not really sure. It's a good question. I think most people would think it's one of the Greek isles, but I don't think it is.
I typed in Cyprus to Google. It says country in the Middle East. I think I was right.
All right.
Wow,
well,
it's beautiful there.
Looks amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, how did he find a guy like this? I have no idea. And his dad's a coach in Scotland too, so.
Probably how you find a guy like that.
I guess. So that is my Tuesday. Maybe I can convince my wife to go catch a movie with me so I can have something to say on tomorrow's podcast. All right. It looks like this Padre game might get actually weather
rained
delayed.
Out. Yeah, I heard about that
altogether. So
yep.
Probably good for everybody.
Yeah. We need a day. We need a day away from the Padres.
Enough. I know. Just enough of this. Tired of watching the same thing over and over again. All right. We'll do it again on Wednesday. Thank you all for the support.